It's Sunday, January 23rd, 2022, and I'm in the place that I've seen from the outside for years. I've never seen it from the inside. That place is Andrews Geyser near Old Fort, North Carolina. Behind me, you see the rock pillar, I guess, where water should be shooting in normal times, but the geyser has been drained to make some repairs on the walls and on the pipes, and so this rock hub or pillar or jet, whatever you want to call it, is dry. A week ago, on January 16th, 2022, there was a snowstorm of about 8 to 9 inches in this area. In a week's time, it's melted down to what you see here. I'm going to switch the angle of the camera and walk around so that you can see the snow, see the totals, or see what's left of the snow, and see what's left of the geyser as it's being repaired. This is what should be spraying water. This it's really like a Scottish cairn, I suppose. These rocks that were pulled out of the creek right behind me and years ago were built into this column where water should be shooting. This is the pipe where water should be coming from. There's somebody's initials carved into the concrete from years ago. You may have seen the camera lurch just a minute ago. That was me walking on however many years worth of mud and slime and slickness have been built up in the bottom of this. The reason I'm not looking at the camera now is I'm trying to find my footing here on this muddy mess. Parts of it are dry over on the corner. Around the edges you can see that it's dry, but if you see down low, there's looks like algae or something has grown. Maybe the concrete's coming apart, I don't know. But there's several different layers of color there from where mud or pollen or whatever pollutants are in the water have stained the concrete over all these years. Again, I'm walking through a slick place in this low corner. You can see a little bit of snow still here waiting for the sunlight or waiting for the next snow, I don't know. But I never imagined that I'd be able to walk around inside Andrews Geyser, and I didn't realize just quite how deep the pool is. I'll try to pull back so you can see me against the wall. I'm 6'2", and so you can see the wall is up to about there. The water level is normally about here or even below that. So in normal times there's about 3 feet of water in this geyser that comes naturally out of the creek behind me over here. If you've never seen this geyser before, it's built in the form of a 5-pointed star with rounded ends. Or rounded corners. This is one of the corners here of a normal 5-pointed star would be a sharp point, but it's rounded off to these not quite circular shapes. Round, but not quite a full circle. Here's a little bit of snow, very icy sort of snow that's left. Perfect for snowballs or a snowman or whatever you wanted to gather it up into. It came down as fine dry snow powder a week ago because the temperature was in the 20s when it snowed, but then it's been well above freezing for the past week. And then Friday night there was a little bit more snow that fell. Sorry about the sun there. It's hard to walk on mud and talk to a camera and stay out of the sun all at the same time. Here is the drain. I knew this drain existed, but I'd never seen it before. This is the drain. I can hear a little bit of water trickling sort of under the drain or around it or something. But in normal times, water would be gushing down out of this to go back into the creek. This grate here helps keep leaves and sticks and things out. I'll try to make an eclipse of the sun and then change the angle so that you're not looking into the sun. There's a few sticks here. There's lots of rocks in it. People throw rocks in. They throw coins in. There's not usually fish in this geyser unless somebody puts a fish into it. I don't know why they would do that, but somebody probably would. There's lots of big rocks that people have picked up out of the creek and thrown in here, but not trash. It seems to be pretty well cleaned out of cans and bottles and all that kind of thing that people feel the need to litter about. or litter with. While I'm standing here in the geyser, I'll show you a little bit of this park. There is the main road, and these stone columns are plaques memorializing Revolutionary and Civil War soldiers and heroes who went off to fight for their homeland. There's a big rock stone bench, picnic tables, a covered picnic shelter. If you can see the building up on the mountaintop, that's a lodge that you can stay in. You can rent out for the night or the week. A lot of people have family reunions and parties and that sort of thing up there in the lodge. Looking on around, what you see as a level line there where the snow is on the side of the mountain is the train track. The trains don't run through here anymore, or if they do, it's very rare through McDowell County here in North Carolina. I'll go over to the other side where we were just a minute ago when I was describing the rounded points of the star, so you can see down toward the creek. I know this might not be the most interesting video in the world, but some of you may never have been here, so I thought I would share it with you. All right, I'm standing in one of these rounded points now where we were just a moment ago, and you can see the railroad track a little bit closer, and down in the ditch is where the creek comes through. And then looking further on down the road, there are picnic tables. You can see that car going down the road. Right around that curve is a one-lane railroad bridge where the train crosses over. So you have to sound your horn as you're going around, or as you're approaching that bridge, so that you won't get hit by oncoming traffic, because the one-lane bridge is right in a blind curve. So if there's any engineers, civil engineers watching, don't build railroad bridges in blind curves, unless you want people to use their horns. All right, I'm going to climb out of the geyser now. I can't promise you this will be graceful, but we'll get out of the geyser somehow. All right, I'm up on the ground. The ground level is about 3 feet above the floor of the geyser. We'll walk down here to the creek so you can see it. I won't get in it today. If it were 95 degrees outside, I would get in the creek. I've played in it several times. But for now, we'll just walk down here and see the water. And I'll turn you around so that you can see the direction we're going. Maybe you can hear the crunch of my feet as I walk over this crusty snow. If I had been here a week ago, this snow would have been 8 to 9 or maybe even 10 inches deep. And it was very dry, powdery. If any of you like to ski or snowboard, it was perfect snow for that. But now it's just a kind of a soggy, crusty sort of ice. All right, up there you can see the railroad track. And here you can see the sign from the North Carolina Department of Wildlife, I guess it is. That this creek is stocked with trout. And now you can see the creek. Some of you might call it a river. Around here it's known as a creek. That main biggest rock that you can see in the middle of the creek with the snow on it is about 3 feet above the water. About 3 feet of the rock is above the water, if you need a size comparison. Now we'll go a little bit closer down, because if I turn you now, you'll be looking through a thicket. So I'm negotiating some snow and ice here to get a better view so that you can see upstream. If you can see that little waterfall that's 100 feet or so upstream, it looks like it's falling maybe about a foot. I know sometimes it's hard to see distances and gauge and judge things on a video, but that water is falling about a foot or so. And here it comes downstream. You can see there's some sticks and leaves and things blocking the flow of the water a little bit, but the creek rolls on. And then there is downstream. And if you've ever heard the story of Zacchaeus and the sycamore tree, right in front of us is an American sycamore tree. Probably not the kind Zacchaeus climbed, but that's an American sycamore. Now I've come back up away from the creek. You can hear my crunching footsteps again maybe. And we'll walk over this way so you can see across the road. Up there on the side of the mountain where that wall is, that's a retaining wall to hold back the gravel and the ballast from the train tracks. It's the same train track on that side of the geyser as is on this side of the geyser. This particular section of train track here from McDowell County into Buncombe County in western North Carolina, I think it's 7 miles or so to get from the town of Old Fort to the town of Black Mountain. I think it's 7 miles as the crow flies. But there are 13 hairpin turns, I believe it is, in the railroad track. You can Google that, I'm sure, and get all the facts. I should have verified my facts before I started talking about things. But there's lots of switchbacks in this railroad track to get the train from the lower elevation where I am now, near Old Fort, North Carolina, up to Black Mountain, North Carolina, which is close to Asheville if you've ever been there. Coming over here, we'll see some of these plaques and monuments that have been erected over the years. I hope this is interesting to somebody. If you've ever been here, then you know exactly what I'm talking about and you know exactly where I am. If you haven't been here, maybe you'd like to visit in the spring or sometime when the geyser is repaired. This is a plaque commemorating the Swannanoa Gap engagement. On March 24th, 1865, Union General George Stoneman led 60,000 cavalrymen from Tennessee into southwestern Virginia and western North Carolina to disrupt the Confederate supply line by destroying sections of the Virginia and Tennessee Railroad, the North Carolina Railroad, and the Piedmont Railroad. He struck at Boone, North Carolina, which is about an hour and a half northwest of here, on March 28, headed into Virginia on April 2nd, and returned to North Carolina a week later. Stoneman's raid ended at Asheville on April 26, the day that Confederate General Joseph E. Johnston surrendered to Union General William T. Sherman near Durham. Durham, North Carolina is about 3.5 or 4 hours from here. So this plaque commemorates and has lots of historical information about that engagement during the Civil War. This is part of the North Carolina Civil War trails. And now, here's kind of an interesting feature. If you like chairs, if you like benches, and if you like rocks, here's all three in one. This is one big stone. I don't know that it was carved. I think it's just naturally formed that way. Somebody has done some amateur carving on it with something sharp, trying to carve in initials or something. But if you're a giant, this is a good recliner. Again, I'm 6'2", and my feet are about 6 inches or so off of the ground. It's a good angle. It's a lot like seats in a movie theater, the angle of the backrest on this big rock chair. But we'll move on. Over here is a trash can corral. I don't think the trash cans will get out of that. Nice stonework on the corners. Here's a visitor coming to see the geyser. This, I hope you can see it in the dark. This is a plaque describing Andrews Geyser. It was built in 1912 by George Fisher Baker of New York as a tribute to his friend Colonel Alexander Boyd Andrews of Raleigh, North Carolina, and in appreciation for the great public service he rendered in the development and upbuilding of western North Carolina. Andrews Geyser was restored in 1976, that's the year I was born, by the way, by the town of Old Fort with contributions from the people of western North Carolina and dedicated as a public park for the use and enjoyment of all. Your cooperation in caring for these facilities will be appreciated and ensure the use of Andrews Geyser as a park for the benefit of future generations. And for the most part, people do help take care of it. Sometimes the trash is overflowing, and sometimes they don't pick up their picnic scraps and things. Now this monument that you're about to see is a memorial to the incarcerated railroad workers who built the Mountain Division of the Western North Carolina Railroad. look around. See the railroad tracks looping up the mountainside? We saw those a minute ago. About 3,000 African American